Oh God, what scene are we on? I didn't even know. Yes. Aha! All right, we're live. I'm gonna listen to my audio for just a quick second here, and then we will dive in. Today's gonna be super cool. I had to absolutely fix this camera in order to do what we're gonna do today, and I figured it out. It's exciting. So let's listen to my audio real quick. We're on. Hooray! Now I get to pick up a guitar. Today's lesson is all about speed picking, which is super exciting. I got to learn it from my wonderful, amazing teacher named Alex Campbell. And he wanted a shout out, so Alex, you're awesome. And if you want to do lessons with him, he does have some additional slots right now. His website is alexcampbellmusic.com. He's got some awesome etudes. I really like the etude music, actually, as well as lessons, and he can help you with recording. He's got a studio in close to Austin, Texas, and he's awesome. So with that out of the way, let's hop into the speed picking stuff. I have trained with so many people. I don't want to name names because it's a little rude, but I feel like I've tried so many different methods, and I'm going to explain what to avoid first, and then I'm going to explain this method, which got me up to quite a good speed very quickly, and it's just continuing. But first, I want to show you some Alex stuff real quick. So let's hop on over to the YouTubes here. Give me just a second. YouTube. There we go. That name. So this is who we are learning from. Mr. Alex Campbell, in the name of God. Let's see if our audio is going to play. Yep. So Alex is a shredder. He's awesome. So let's pick up a guitar and talk about this stuff. All right. Okay. So first things first, we need to talk about how we hold the guitar, because if we don't talk about where the guitar is on your body, everything else I tell you about picking doesn't matter. You have to get this right. Okay. You have to get this right. If this is screwed up, nothing, absolutely nothing of what I'm about to tell you is going to help you at all. You have to get these fundamentals right, okay? So the first thing is, I'm playing with a guitar on my right leg. I generally play with a footstool these days. These are Alex's recommendations. I put it under my right leg, and then I have the guitar right here. Oftentimes it's not right in the crease of my leg and my body. I like it just a little bit out. And depending on the guitar you're playing, this guitar has a very small body. But other guitars, like my Squier Stratocaster over there, have a little bit larger body, and that can affect the height of the guitar. I just want you to be aware of that, because I found that I kind of preferred doing this on my 7-string for a while, and now I'm preferring doing it on my 6-string. And I'm just going to switch this window over here. Now I'm preferring doing it on my 6-string. So this is a way you can do it. Apparently this is the cool way to do it. Alex told me that in one of his auditions, he was told to lower his strap. So everything that I said in the how to hold a guitar pick video, where I was like, you need to have it, super nerd high, and it should be the same. You don't have to do that. And you'll find that it took me, usually these adjustments will take you about 2 weeks. So if you're doing a lot of adjustments all at once, it'll probably take you not very long. It'll probably take you maybe 3 weeks to put all this stuff in place. But guitar position, first thing. Next thing to be aware of is what I call the approach angle, and that is the angle that your arm makes relative to the neck. And if you measure this angle, you can see it's pretty open. It's around 150, 140. If you've got the guitar up higher, it usually ends up being around 130. But it's the angle of the neck over to this arm. And if your guitar is too low, then that's going to cant your hand up like this, and that's going to mess up your picking technique. So let's talk about how to hold the pick now. To hold the pick, what I do is I put my hand straight like this, and then I put the pick, rotate my hand 45 degrees, I put the pick right there, and then you just put your thumb on top of it, okay? It's not out a ton, it's also not in a ton. You don't need to do either of those things. You really don't. They might help your speed a little bit, but they probably aren't. Next thing is what kind of pick to use for this. If you're using what I call a flex pick, see how this pick flexes? It's going to be bad for speed. You're going to get a more direct response and feedback out of this rather than the random times at which the string comes off of a flexing pick. So the picks I use are the John Petrucci Flow 2.0 picks. This is the thicker pick. I used to play the John Petrucci Jazz 3 picks, which are also very good. Those are 1.5 mil, but when I moved up to the 2, the picking is crisp. It's awesome. So next thing when it comes to picking, I mentioned this in the picking video, is you can have your thumb, not everybody's thumb bends like this, and people look at certain players and they go, well, I gotta bend my thumb like that to get the sound. You don't have to, and also only 25% of white people and 35% of black people, according to a 1950 study I found, can even do this with their thumbs. So don't worry about this. It's not necessary. Next thing is you'll see people doing this, and I also don't want you doing this. What I want you doing is keeping your thumb straight so that 1, 2, 3, all of the joints are in line. And what Alex said to me is that when you have all 3 of these joints in line, the timing is improved. I haven't necessarily noticed that, but I haven't been doing this for that long. Only a couple weeks, and also my timing isn't the best, to be honest. So we want to keep all those things, keep all these things in line. So this is our picking position. Let's talk about I call these accessory fingers. You can just stack this right there, and then kind of right there, and then my pinky just kind of hangs loose. It's not engaged in any way. Some people do, depending on the guitar, they'll do pinky anchoring. Pinky anchoring is fine. You'll see for me, my pinky kind of floats along the body, and the reason it does that is because of these guitars. There was another guitar that I played prior to this one where pinky anchoring was very comfortable, and it made a lot of sense to do. But usually my pinky just kind of slides. I might even be on the nail just a little bit of my pinky. That's not the biggest deal. Don't even worry about it. It's just going to happen. I'll say the thing that you want to watch out for is that when you're picking, that your third finger doesn't come up and grab some of the other strings. That's going to be your worst outcome. So with all that out of the way, let's talk about wrist motions. This is the next most important thing to understand. There's 3 fundamental motions that your wrist can do. It can do rotation, also called supination and pronation. We're just going to call it wrist rotation because that's a lot easier to remember. It's the Queen's wave, okay? And then you have what are called flexion, and extension. I believe it's these 2. So it's like tapping somebody. And then you have the main motion that we're going to use, which is a side-to-side motion. Okay? You see how my arm is completely still, and just this moves side to side. There's a little bit of a reaction motion, but my arm is still, and I'm just waving side to side. So when we come onto the guitar, and I'm going to move this webcam down, so you can see exactly what my hands are doing. And I got to give you a couple different views here. When you look straight on, I'm just doing this, okay? Now, there's a lot of visual illusions that you need to be aware of when you're training this kind of thing. And the first visual illusion that you need to be aware of is when I play, some people might look at this area on my arm and go, oh, he's rotating. He's rotating your wrist, therefore rotation is the motion I need to use, and that's what's correct, okay? But what you can do is, I'm going to give you another angle, I'm going to play the same thing. When you look along this segment of the arm, you'll see that the primary motion is not wrist rotation, okay? The purpose of wrist rotation, and this is extremely important to understand, is for crossing strings. That's what wrist rotation is for. Now, the deal is, if you try to play just with this motion and eliminate 100% of this when you're playing just single strings, your arm is going to hurt. So please don't try to do that. It's not going to help you, okay? So the way to think about it, I call it 95-5. It's 95% up and down, and then 5% of this and that in your primary motion. Okay, and we're going to get to faster stuff in a little bit. I just got home from something, so I'm not warmed up. So we get to warm up together. So another place to look for the visual illusions of wrist rotation are at this spot right here, because this is a bone, and a lot of the rest of this is just meat, okay? So movements here can be affected, or seem to be affected, by finger movement, okay? So it can look like I'm doing something even though you see right here, this is completely still. So you need to look at here, and maybe here, because this is where bone is as well, and the elbow, and kind of the whole upper arm to see any of this kind of motion, okay? And you see that there's no excess motion. So let's review. Primary picking motion should be this, and when you cross a string, let's do some string crossings, you're going to see rotation when I do string crossings. See how I'm exiting this string to cross up to the next string? I'm going to bring the camera in just a little bit more. Watch how I exit the string to cross to the next one. So, rotation is used for crossing strings, and this is something that's going to take you a long time to master. You have to focus on it very particularly, okay? But I think we've done enough talking about establishing the fundamental motions of this, and actually I didn't tell you the bad ways to do it, so that's actually fine. And we're going to go ahead and hop into the exercise, okay? So here's the exercise as I originally learned it from Alex, okay? Take a metronome, our friend the metronome, hooray. And what you're going to do is let's start with 80 BPM, okay? So 80. I don't know how well you can hear it. Okay, so there's our metronome. And the notes you're going to play are simply this: E, D, C, and B. And by the way, it's going to look like my thumb is doing this, but that's, again, it's another visual illusion of the rotation, or, yeah, the rotation comes up here, and it looks like the thumb is doing that. The thumb is staying straight the entire time. And picking strength, by the way, comes from what I call the donut. It's right here. It's just this muscle right here. That's where... See how I'm not moving anymore, but I'm getting a totally different sound? The only difference is how hard I'm pinching the pick, okay? So, when we do this, that is the exercise. So we're going to start at 80, and we're just going to test ourselves, and we're going to see what's comfortable, okay? And I'll explain to you the reasons why this works in just a second. So, okay, great. That's really easy for me. So, I'm going to pop up to 90, okay? A bump of 10. Here we are on 90. That's pretty slow for me too. That used to be a little bit harder. And by the way, this whole picking setup is going to make your pick angle not perfectly flat, but very flat. Okay, I used to play like this, and I'll do a demo for you right now. And what you're going to hear is that when you have this extreme 45-degree pick angle that everybody preaches, versus how I'm playing now, which is like down here. Okay, this is the old way, this is the new way, very flat pick angle. The articulation is mind-blowing. It's so clear. Okay, so here's old way. Here's new way. It's very crisp, and I'm not warmed up at all, and this is live. Let's go. Okay, so we tried 90. 90's too easy for us, so let's pop up to 100, okay? Here's 100 BPM. I'm going to do the exercise again. That's not too bad for me. Once I get into it, that'll be easy. So we're going to go up to 110. Sorry. Okay, so here's the metronome on 110. Set it right there. And we're going to try 110. See how 110 feels for us. Cool. That's it's a little bit of a stretch. So let's say that our starting tempo is where we were comfortable, 90, okay? And then you're going to go through and we're going to take our second favorite tool. The timer. Ta-da! And you're going to put timer on for 3 minutes. I like 3 minutes because you kind of start losing focus or endurance after that. And you're going to play, get the metronome here. What you're going to do is you're going to play at your comfortable tempo for 3 minutes. And after you play at your comfortable tempo for 3 minutes, you're going to bump it up by 10. Okay, you're going to do your next most comfortable tempo. And then for me, if I go from 100 to 110, oops, my metronome's set for 120. If I go from 100 to 110, that's a really big jump for me. And so generally what I'll do is I'll do the increments of 10 until I know I'm getting closer to my target, right? Like for me, my goal right now is for 130 BPM sextuplets to be really comfortable. And we'll go through the exercise. It'll be kind of boring, but you'll see me go through this progression live. You'll hear my articulation. It's going to take us some time, but I'll do all the teaching first, and then you can hang around and then skip through it, and I'll try to put the metronome on screen and everything. But you're going to do 3 minutes at 90 or whatever your starting tempo is. It could be 70 if you're really new to this. Okay, sextuplets, and I want to mention some other quick things. Form. Let's get my face on screen here. Hello. Okay. Form is the most important thing here. So when I'm doing this, generally I've got my phone and I put it on the camera mode and show you my setup. It's my setup right here. I put my phone right there and I play a metronome on the computer and I'm sitting right here and I'm looking at my phone right here. Oh, it's backwards. Let's see. There we go. So my phone can see my arm. It needs to be over here, but you get the point. The phone can see my arm, and I'm constantly, this takes awareness, it takes focus, it takes dedication, right? I'm constantly looking at whether I'm doing any of the arm movements I don't want to. You know what it looks like when it's done correctly. You can go watch Alex's video, or you can rewatch this when the thing is up. And there's not a bunch of up and down, I call it the jerk-off motion. We're not doing the jerk-off motion when we play guitar. And by the way, I actually found a study, I'm going to include it in the upcoming video on this, and it was on the world's fastest drummer. And the study concluded that the wrist joint was compliant, and compliant means flexible, okay? So when I'm doing this, this is still flexible. And by the way, when you see people, they're like, oh, my wrist is flexed, my wrist is flexible, my wrist is loose, my wrist is loose. The thing is that the wrist isn't like floppy, super loosey-goosey loose. It's engaged because you're constantly flicking it back and forth like this, okay? So, let's talk about negative arm motion, stuff we want to avoid. Actually, let's talk about some tips I have for this exercise, okay? Because the thing is, when you start doing this, it's a different way of thinking. It's like too fast for your brain, okay? So what's going to happen is you start going, and you're going to get mixed up on like, where's my pick, blah, 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 blah. You're going to get mixed up on that, okay? So what I want you to think about is down, and then I want you to feel this pick upstroke, okay? And you're not going to sit here and go, no extra accents on this, okay? But I want you to feel that upstroke. I'm going to accent it just now so you can hear me think about it. Okay, cool. So feel that. Okay, let's talk about some negative arm motions, some shit you shouldn't be doing, okay? The first thing is if this is your technique, you need to redo it immediately, okay? And I'm not mincing my words here, you need to redo it immediately. This technique I call arm picking, and that is where the whole, so this is what you don't want to do. That is where the whole arm moves like this, okay? Now, I want to stress that tremolo picking is completely different from the speed picking. Okay, there was a little bit of arm movement, but I'll tell you, when you get to the lower strings, to cross the string, it's so big that it does require a little bit of arm movement. It's not something you should actively be thinking about, okay? And tremolo picking would look like this. And tremolo picking, it's fine to do some arm picking in, okay? But what we're doing is maximum control and maximum speed, not maximum speed at the sacrifice of control, which is effectively what tremolo picking is. It's a different technique, and I want you to understand that. Okay, so things you should avoid, arm picking, okay? This is what arm picking looks like. And you're gonna see my whole arm move when I play things. I can't do it. I can't do it. But what you're gonna see is you're gonna see whole movements like this, and you see how my wrist is not moving at all. And now that's fine if you're doing sweep. Generally, I kind of do that with rotation like this, and the thumb stays pretty much straight. So I'm doing picking, or I'm doing sweeping like this. I'm not doing sweeping with my arm. Because you're going to see some people, and the point to look for is on the elbow, okay? You're going to see some people move up and down like this. And that's a much less controlled movement versus the rotation that you can just use right here. And one last thing I want to point out while we're here is you can see that my thumb sticks out. Everybody's thumb is a little bit different, but my thumb is not sticking out excessively beyond the pick, okay? So, arm picking is what you want to avoid, and you also want to avoid doing this kind of motion when you're doing it. So, I think right now is a great time for any questions we have on this technique. I'll just talk through it one more time from the very beginning. You want your guitar, you can put it on your right leg, no strap, or if you have a strap, you don't want it super up here, you want it lower down on the body. You want the approach angle to be not flat. You see how my wrist is already deflected like this? Remember, your motion comes from here. Make sure to watch for any visual illusions, and you can look at these kinds of points which are not moving and not rotating, and this is where your picking motion should be coming from. So, yeah, I think we've covered the technique pretty exhaustively. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to start with your metronome, maybe 70, maybe 80. You're going to check if it's comfortable. Then you're going to play for 3 minutes. I've found, by the way, my ideal rest period is 2 minutes, okay? So with all that stuff out of the way, I'm going to move the camera around And I'm going to demonstrate going through this exercise with you from the very beginning. And by the way, this is not typically the first thing I do. This is usually the last part of my warm-ups. But what we're going to do is we're going to set this right here so you can see the metronome. And just, can somebody give me a thumbs up if the balance between the metronome and the guitar is good? Just give me a thumbs up. And we're just going to go through our timer practice here. Hey, look at that. Beautiful. We can see everything. So here's metronome and here's guitar. 80's too slow for me, man. But I can do it at 80 if I want to, and that's another downfall of trying to tense up your arm and go, okay? Is you can't do slower speeds effectively. Da 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 da. Cool. So 80's easy for us. Try 90, and we'll do a 3. And there's different things you can focus on while you do this exercise. One of them is what is the style of articulation you want? Do you want it to be softer, or do you want it to be harder? Here's soft, and now here's hard, which I like. And you can see the only wrist rotation is when I cross the string. And I'm focused on the feeling that I have when I play this. How does my wrist feel? How does my arm feel? How does it feel at the very tips of my fingers when I'm just kind of barely licking the strings, you know? And there's my pinky, sliding around on the body. I had a couple economy picks there, so I'm going to stop and I'm going to restart. Cool. I think we've beat the horse on 100, so I'm not going to waste your time and play 3 minutes of something that's very easy for me, and we're going to skip to 100 BPM, okay? And so, by the way, before I start this exercise, I always think in my head, I want to get that in before I start, right? Because I want you to imagine if you're somehow, some way, somewhere in the world, sometime, in a professional environment where there's a downbeat and then you got a boom and you got to play instantly. I want you to have the rhythmic fortitude to play at rhythm immediately, not to have some kind of warm up and drop right in. And also it helps if you breathe and then play. So, and I'm not great at that, but we'll try. So, 3. Had a couple mess ups, so we'll get back on as fast as we can. 3. And here's where we're starting to get fatigued, about halfway in the exercise. I'm going to bring the camera a little closer for you guys for a little better view. So I'll shake it out real quick, and we'll get back on and finish out the exercise. 3, digga-digga-digga-digga, breath. And this is just sprinting, so. I set timer for 2 minutes, and 2 minutes is my rest, and I don't want to touch the guitar during this time, so I usually get on my phone and check Facebook messages or whatever. In this case, checking your guys' messages, and nobody has asked questions, so we're just hanging out while my arm rests, and we'll get back to it here in a minute. Hanging out, doing nothing. 2 minutes I found is my ideal rest time. Get some water, ask a question. Or, you know what you can do is you can go get a massage gun and you can massage this whole section of your arm. That helps a little bit. Shake it out, maybe do this. And we passed our 100, right? So if you do a set of 3 minutes and you don't feel like you did very well on it, you can repeat the set. You don't have to go higher, right? 100 felt pretty good for me. And I feel pretty good. I don't think I'll jump up to 110, but maybe I could do 108 or maybe 106. That would be good for me. So we'll do 108 as our next tempo. We'll try that. And if it's too high in the middle of a run, you don't have to force yourself to do 108. You could go down to 106. That's cool, you know? You just want to be pushing and progressing yourself. So let's talk about the reason. Why this works. The reason why this works is because instead of doing speed bursts, when you're learning to sprint, you don't. I'm gonna count up my extra time. When you're learning to sprint, you don't go da 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 sprint da 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 sprint. You just sprint, and then when you're sprinting, you try to sprint faster, right? That's why this works, is because we're working at the threshold, and the body responds very well to not just go as hard as you can, go as hard as you can. It responds very well to working at the threshold, but not for too long. It's like that little cheesy, business diagram where they're like the scarcity zone, the stay where you are zone, and then the growth zone, and then the scary zone. And the scary zone is like too much. It's too much for you to change that much, but you can go in the growth zone and you can see good growth. Cool. So that out of the way, we've done almost 3 minutes rest, and we'll do our set on 108. So digga 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 da, and we'll take a breath and play. And 3 minutes. So 3 minutes. And by the way, you can also mix up the patterns. So like a lot of times, just so I don't get lost in the sauce, I'll play. So you'll see that some. So let's do this. So this is a rep that's not necessarily feeling comfortable for me. So maybe I'll get down to 1 to 6. Try again. I'm not shaking out my hand because it's sore. I'm shaking it to loosen it up. I'm going to move for angle for you guys. Timing. Breath. Sprint to the end. So this is how you work on speed. You got to work at the threshold of your playing. Use metronome, use a timer, keep going up in tempo, don't make too big of a jump. If you want a bonus, you can also slow yourself down and observe your picking motion. And I want to say that just because you see, just because you see arm motion doesn't mean it's bad. If you see arm motion, it means that you have arm motion, and a lot of times any of the excess motion, as you get into the higher speeds and as you practice longer, they tend to go away. So don't freak out too much if you have some additional arm motion. Here's a video from September 19th, and me doing this at around 122, 24. Our video will be better, and then I'll show you I didn't favorite my slow-mo one, and my phone's about to die. But I have a slow-mo one that shows this. So just for funsies, let's do some in the name of God practice and see how far we can get live. Okay. Then we're going to go switch over to Guitar Pro. Ooh, it's on the other browser. Let's go here. And that's what I've been working on. We'll do some runs on it. I have not worked on the 30-second note part yet. That's a little crazy. And I'll tell you another thing. When you're working this kind of stuff, one of the things that can be helpful is once you've got it down on a basic level, is to once you've got it down on a basic level, you can continue to work at the threshold in your playing as well, because even if you're getting some little chips and dings right there, you're aware of them, if you keep playing and practicing, they tend to work themselves out. I can't share this tab with you because Alex's tab, but okay, cool. So let's go back to OBS and set it where you guys can see me. And we'll go back there. I'll scooch over here and see what we can do. Hey, it's gonna happen. All right, let's give it a go. Ah. We're going to go a little faster, a little quicker, and it restarted before I was ready. Let's try one more time. We'll do 74%. Let's give it a go. 30-second notes. All right, we're going to call it there. It's been a good night hanging with you guys. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope it was helpful. It was really helpful to me to learn it this way instead of learning arm picking and tensing and speed bursts and all this other junk that people do. This has been the way that has really improved things for me. I used to do, I have a pretty old video now called Turn Scales, which is that whole exercise, and I used to do that. I used to start that exercise at maybe 120, and after working on this for a little bit, nowadays I started at maybe, like usually 136, just because that's the comfortable slow tempo, but 156 used to be like my max on that, and now I'll start at like 140 and I'll go up from there. So I tend not to spend too much time on turn skills anymore because it's an older exercise. I'm doing other stuff like this thing. So still a very good exercise for practicing the string picking stuff. I want to say one last thing before I go, and that is if you just want to practice the string crossings, you can practice it both ways. So the first way, doesn't matter where you are, let's do it on A. And I want you to focus on that rotation. And then you can practice it the other way too. Let's start on G. All right. Hope it was helpful. Leave me a comment if this helped you, and hopefully video soon. Working on putting some cool resources in there. And see you next week. Peace.